On a routine flight, a 10-year-old boy was sitting beside his mother when a grown man decided to unleash hatred on him for simply existing. Passengers gasped. The crew panicked, and the moment he reached for the boy, everything changed, because his mother wasn't just any parent. She was a billionaire who refused to let racism fly. What happened next? Forced an emergency landing and justice like you've never seen before. Rael had always loved airports. For a 10-year-old, the place felt like a different world. Bright halls, rolling suitcases, voices from every country blending together like some giant orchestra of life. He walked beside his mother, his small hand wrapped around the smooth leather of her travel bag strap, while his eyes darted around, mesmerized by everything and everyone. Elara moved with the quiet elegance of someone who never needed to announce who she was. Tall, poised, dark-skinned, and stunning. She wore a fitted black jumpsuit, soft gold accessories, and a coat that whispered wealth the way only old money could. She didn't try to look expensive, she simply was. But despite the image the world saw, Elara Kingsford was still just a mother, walking with her son. "Mom, are we still sitting together?" Rael asked, voice hopeful, clutching his comic book. He had packed 3, his favorites neatly stacked in his backpack. Elara smiled, brushing a stray curl from his forehead. "Of course. Baby, I wouldn't let them separate us, even if the pilot asked." "Even the pilot?" Rael grinned. "Elara Kingsford does not get separated from her child," she said, lowering her voice in a dramatic whisper, making him giggle. They walked toward their gate. Gate C-18, where passengers were already lining up. Business travelers, vacationing families, elderly couples holding hands. A regular flight, a simple trip, nothing special, nothing dangerous, nothing that should have made her heart race hours later. But stories don't warn you before they begin. While waiting in line, Rael swung his backpack lightly, humming the theme song of his favorite hero. Elara watched him. A mix of love and that private fear only single mothers knew, the fear of not being able to protect your child from the world. No matter how powerful you were, Elara was a billionaire. Yes, founder of Kingsford Tech Innovations, a company that built sustainable energy systems, now used in half the world's airports. But that didn't shield her son from the world's cruelty, especially the kind that lived in silence, or in stares, or inside the hearts of men like the one who stepped into line behind them. A tall white man, late 40s, stocky build, thinning blonde hair, a thick beard. His presence carried a heaviness, as if the air around him thickened when he stood still. His jaw was locked, his eyes narrowed, scanning people as if each person offended him. Roderick, pale. Though she didn't know his name yet, she could feel something about him. Some people carried storms inside them, and Rael felt it too. He shifted closer to his mother. Instinctively, Elara placed an arm around him, not reacting, but alert. Boarding began. Group A, now boarding. Elara held premium first-class tickets. They stepped forward. Behind them, Roderick scoffed loudly. Loud enough to be heard, quiet enough to pretend it wasn't meant to be. Elara didn't turn. Rael did. And that was the first moment the boy saw something he'd never forget. The look in the man's eyes when he stared down at him, not irritated, not impatient, pure hatred. As if the very sight of a black child bothered him. Elara gently redirected Rael's head forward. "Eyes on me," she said softly. "But on me," she repeated. And they boarded. First class, smelled like leather and citrus. The seats were wide, reclining, luxurious. Rael hopped onto his with excitement. "Mom, look. They have the screen and a blanket." Elara smiled, buckling him in. "See, told you this flight would be fun." But then, before she could place her own bag overhead, a deep voice growled behind them. "Figures they'd let just anyone up here now." Her hands froze on her bag strap. Slow breath in, slow out. Elara turned. Roderick stood in the aisle, sunglasses pushed up onto his head, glaring at them like they had stolen the oxygen from the plane. "Yes?" Elara asked calmly. "Well," he sneered, I paid for peace on this flight. Didn't know it came with noise. He didn't say black. He didn't need to. Elara tilted her head, studying him. Then, I hope you also paid for decency, she replied, because you seem low on it. Passengers nearby looked up. Rael tensed in his seat. Roderick's jaw twitched. You've got a smart mouth, and you have a loud one, she countered. I guess we're even. A flight attendant rushed over, placing herself between them. Sir, ma'am, please, let's keep the aisle moving. Roderick stepped closer. Too close. People like you don't belong up here, he muttered. Bet. Somebody else paid for it. Figures. Elara felt her body go cold, not in fear, but in that dangerous stillness she had learned long ago. Before, she had money, before success. Back when people underestimated her simply because of her skin. You don't know anything about me, she said quietly. Yeah, he said, eyes flicking to Rael. I know enough. Instantly, Elara stepped between him and her son. Don't look at my child, she warned. Roderick smirked. Relax. He'll make noise for the whole cabin anyway, sir. The flight attendant interrupted firmly. Please, take your seat now. Roderick finally moved down the aisle, finding his seat. Just one row behind them, Elara inhaled, exhaled, and sat down. Rael whispered, Mom, did I do something wrong? Her heart cracked. No, honey, she said softly, smoothing his curls. People like him are wrong, not you. He nodded, but looked down, hugging his comic book tighter. Elara clenched her jaw. This was not how their flight was supposed to begin, but she kept calm. Because mothers don't panic. Mother's planned takeoff went smoothly. Clouds glowing pink outside the windows. Engines humming steadily. Rael relaxed again, watching a superhero movie on his screen, while Elara opened a folder on her tablet. A new blueprint designed for Kingsford's solar microgrid systems. Work grounded her, but 10 minutes later, the piece broke. A loud kick slammed into the back of Rael's seat, jarring him forward. His headphones slipped off. He gasped. At Elara, froze. Another kick. Harder. Rael winced. Elara turned slowly. Roderick sat behind them, legs stretched arrogantly. His boot pressed against the seat as if he owned it. You need something, she asked sharply. He didn't answer. He just smirked and pushed his foot harder, rattling Rael's seat. Again, Rael whispered. Mom, stop him. Elara stood. Passengers turned, sir, she said firmly. Stop kicking my son's seat. Roderick shrugged. Tell him to sit still then. He is sitting still. Well, maybe him just being here is annoying me, he grunted. Elara felt something primal rise inside her. Touch his seat again, and we'll have a problem. Roderick leaned back, hands behind his head. Oh, what you gonna do? Call security. Midair, the mocking tone, the smug smile, the total disrespect for her child. Elara's voice dropped into a tone she hadn't used in years. Calm, precise, lethal. Sir, this is your final warning. But the man laughed loudly, attracting more eyes. She's threatening me now, he announced. One of them tries to act fancy and thinks she owns the place. She cut in sharply. One of who? Roderick's smile widened. You heard me? That was when Rael's breathing grew. Shaky, he curled into himself. That was the moment Elara swore she'd never forget, because it wasn't fear she saw in her son. It was shame. A shame no child should ever feel. She turned fully to Roderick. I'm going to ask the flight crew to move you. Try it, he challenged. She walked to the front of the cabin, her heels clicking with authority. The attendants saw her coming and stiffened. Something about her presence demanded attention. Yes, ma'am. Is everything all right? No, Elara said. A man is harassing my son. The attendants exchanged looks. Roderick Hale, one whispered. We've had issues with him before. Elara's eyebrows rose. Then remove him. We'll speak to him. No, she said firmly. Remove him, especially if he has history. He's kicked my son's seat repeatedly and made racially motivated comments. The attendants' eyes widened. Passengers murmured. The cabin began to stir. But before anyone could respond, a shout erupted behind for Roderick. "What's the problem now?" he barked, rising from his seat. "You telling lies up there, making drama." Passengers' heads turned. Rael shrank into his seat. Elara turned slowly. "Go back to your seat." "Nah," he snarled, walking closer, chest puffed. "You think you're special. You think money buys you anything. Bet you're one of those successful single mom types." Living off, he didn't finish, because Elara stepped forward, close enough that he had to look down at her, but she didn't flinch. "There are 162 people on this plane," she said calmly, "and right now, 161 of them want you to sit down." Roderick opened his mouth and the plane jolted slightly in turbulence. He stumbled. Passengers snickered, but embarrassment only fueled. "Hateful men, you people don't belong here," he spat. There it was. The line said loud, said clearly. Gasps filled the cabin. Phones came out. Passengers recorded the flight attendants. Froze. Rael's eyes filled with tears. Elara's face went blank. The expression she wore only when she was deciding what level of power to unleash. She turned to the lead flight attendant. "Kingsford," she stated, "CEO of the company that powers your airport's backup energy grid. I'll make this simple. Either you restrain this man and call the marshals, or this flight will not continue." The attendant paled. "Wait, Kingsford, do you need my ID?" she said coolly. "Or will my face be enough?" The attendant swallowed hard. "Ma'am." "Yes, understood." Roderick blinked, thrown off. What's she talking about? "Who the hell are you?" Elara didn't answer, because she didn't need to. Two attendants approached Roderick. Attempting to guide him back, he jerked his arm away violently. "Don't touch me." Rael flinched. That was enough for Elara. Her voice cut through the cabin. "Captain." The cockpit door opened slightly. A first officer, peeking out. "What's happening?" Elara pointed at Roderick. "This man is a threat to this flight." Roderick scoffed. "Threat? I didn't." Passengers chimed in. "He was kicking the kid's seat. He's been yelling since boarding. He used racist slurs. He stood up during turbulence. We have it on camera." The captain stepped out fully now. "Sir," he said, voice powerful, "return to your seat, or we will turn this plane around." Roderick pointed at Elara wildly. "She's lying. She set me up." "She's, sir," the captain repeated. "See, now." Roderick's eyes flicked around. He realized he was the villain of a story he thought he controlled. He slowly backed down, muttering curses, and sat. But it wasn't over. All flight long, his eyes simmered with hate. And Elara felt it. But she had a plan, because men like Roderick never understand the most dangerous truth. There is nothing more powerful than a mother protecting her child. The plane leveled off, above the clouds, the engine steady and unbothered. But inside the cabin, the tension sat thick enough to choke on. Even the air felt different. Tight, aware, charged. The kind of atmosphere where everyone pretends to relax, but their eyes keep drifting toward danger, and danger sat directly behind a 10-year-old boy. Rael tried to focus on the cartoon playing on his screen, but he kept glancing over his shoulder, terrified that the next kick might come without warning. His small fingers fidgeted with the zipper of his hoodie. The animation's bright colors flickered across his face, but his expression stayed clouded, heavy. The innocence he had walked onto the plane with felt chipped away. Elara saw all of it. A mother doesn't need words. She reads fear in the tiny movement, the way Rael's shoulders curled forward, the stiff way he breathed, the way he kept pulling one sleeve down over his palm, as if hiding. She leaned toward him. "You okay, baby?" He nodded too fast. His voice cracked. "Mom, what did I do wrong?" Elara froze. There it was. The question that stabbed deeper than any insult Roderick could throw. She cupped his cheek gently, guiding his face toward her. "Look at me." His eyes lifted. "You didn't do anything wrong. Not a single thing. But he keeps looking at me like..." Rael couldn't finish. Tears glossed over his eyes, but he blinked them back with the desperate pride kids carry when they feel they have to be strong. Elara's chest tightened. "Rael Kingsford, hear me clearly," she whispered, her tone firm but warm. People like him don't hate you because of who you are. They hate because of who they are. Empty, angry, small. Rael swallowed. But he's big. Elara smiled softly. Small isn't about size. A little of the tension melted from his shoulders, but only a little. Behind them, Roderick shifted loudly in his seat, clearing his throat like he wanted attention. He muttered things under his breath, disjointed words about kids these days, and no discipline, and acting entitled. Elara heard every syllable. She kept her eyes forward, hands folded neatly in her lap, because calm was the first stage of her power dot. She didn't need to explode. She needed to watch, document, prepare people. Expected billionaires to flaunt their status, to wave money like shields. Elara had built her empire differently, quietly, letting opponents underestimate her until the exact moment she crushed them. And for the first time in years, she felt that side of herself rising to the surface. A flight attendant approached, hesitant, younger woman, brunette, anxious eyes. "Ma'am," she whispered, leaning close so others wouldn't hear. "I'm really sorry about what happened. We're keeping a close eye on him. If he does anything again, anything at all, we'll restrain him." Elara nodded, but didn't smile. "Thank you. Safety is your priority, so treat my son's safety as such." The attendant swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am." She walked away, glancing nervously at Roderick, who met her gaze with a smirk that made her quicken her steps. Rael whispered, "Mom, are they scared of him?" Elara took a deep breath. "No, honey. They're scared of doing the wrong thing. But they saw what he did." "They did," she agreed. "And now, they're deciding what kind of people they want to be." Rael frowned, confused, but he stayed quiet. He always listened. He just didn't always understand yet. Half an hour passed. The cabin dimmed slightly as window shades lowered for passengers resting. Soft yellow reading lights dotted the aisle like small lanterns. The hum of quiet conversation, the clink of ice in glasses, the shuffle of blankets, it all returned. Peace pretended to settle. Elara opened her tablet again, reviewing a contract. She tried to lose herself in the language of business. Numbers and clauses always calmed her. But then she froze. A sound, a crack, the faint but unmistakable snap of something hitting plastic. Rael's seat jerked. She looked up sharply. The small pocket of seat for Aitha, one in front of Roderick, now had a sharp indentation mark. He punched the seat. Elara stood so quickly, her headphones fell off her lap. Enough. The entire first-class cabin went silent. Again. Roderick leaned back, pretending innocence. "What?" I stretched. Elara narrowed her eyes. "Try again." He clasped his hands behind his head. "It's just getting comfortable. Not my fault." If his seat is she stepped into the aisle. "Captain." Passengers jumped as she called out. But before the captain could appear, Roderick barked out, "What is your obsession with calling people?" "Sit here. I am ensuring my son's safety," she cut in. "You're ensuring your own downfall," he scoffed. "You think you're intimidating?" "No," Elara said calmly. "I think you're predictable." The insult hit him harder than anything, shouted. Roderick pushed himself up from his seat. "You want to talk about predictable? Sure, you people." Gasps erupted. Rael flinched so hard he nearly knocked over his drink. Elara stepped directly between her son and the man. "Finish that sentence," she said softly. Her voice wasn't brazen, wasn't threatening, but the lack of emotion in her tone sent a shiver through half the cabin. Roderick opened his mouth, but someone else spoke first. A man from across the aisle. "Buddy, stop. You're embarrassing yourself." An older woman added, "Leave the child alone." Another, "We heard everything. Stop harassing them." The murmurs grew. Roderick flushed red. Anger vibrated through him like electricity. "Oh, now everybody wants to be a hero, huh?" Elara's expression stayed steady. "No, they just refuse to protect your ego anymore." "Lady, sit down," he growled, stepping forward. "Do not take another step," she warned. Her voice echoed like a blade through fabric. Passengers held their breaths. Roderick froze mid-step, shocked that a woman, let alone a black woman dared address him like that. She raised her chin slightly. "Sit down." Her command wasn't loud, but power doesn't need volume. It needs certainty, and Elara had plenty. Roderick hesitated, but hesitating wasn't in his nature, fighting was. He lunged, not at her, at Rael. He reached around her like he wanted to grab the boy's shoulder. A collective scream erupted. Elara moved faster than instinct. Her arm blocked Roderick's reach with such force that his wrist smacked against her forearm and recoiled. The sound cracked through the cabin like a slap. Rael gasped in terror. An attendant rushed forward. "Sir, sit down. Do not touch that child." But Roderick wasn't listening. He shoved the attendant away. A man from the back row stood to intervene, but Roderick punched him in the chest, sending him stumbling. Chaos broke loose. Passengers screamed. A baby began crying. The plane shook, lightly in turbulence, amplifying the horror. Elara pulled Rael behind her protectively, her body shielding him completely. "Get the restraints," the lead attendant yelled. Roderick lunged again, but this time he tripped slightly as the plane hit another bump. His shoulder collided with a seat frame, stunning him. That gave the attendants the few precious seconds they needed. 3 of them grabbed his arms. He thrashed violently. "Let go of me. He provoked me. They're lying." "Ease." The captain emerged from the cockpit, face stone-hard. "Sir, you are hereby being restrained for passenger endangerment." "Passenger endangerment," Roderick spat. "That woman is manipulating all of you." The captain didn't blink. "You assaulted a passenger twice and attempted to reach toward a minor. That is a felony. They staged it." Roderick fought harder. "She's using money, or..." "Sir," the captain said, lowering his voice so only Roderick and Elara could hear. "This flight will land with federal marshals waiting. I advise you to stop talking." Roderick fell silent for a single second. Then he laughed. Not a friendly laugh. A cold, sharp, chilling laugh, filled with something dangerous. "You think you're in control," he taunted, looking directly at Elara. "I'm not done with you," Rael whimpered. Roderick's eyes snapped to him. A twisted smile formed, and "I'm not done with him." Elara's entire body stiffened. The captain's jaw clenched. "Him now." The attendants forced Roderick into his seat and zip-tied his wrists. He kicked and screamed, but they held him down, securing him to the armrest with secondary straps. Passengers cheered quietly. Few clapped. The danger had been contained, or so they thought. But Elara wasn't relieved. Something in Roderick's eyes unsettled. Her, a promise of violence, not a threat, a promise. She turned to Rael, kneeling in front of him. "Hey, look at me." He shook his head, tears rolling silently. "Baby, why does he hate me?" Rael sobbed. Elara swallowed the ache in her throat. "He hates himself, and he wants the world to mirror that hate." She wiped his tears with gentle hands. "But listener, mother does not lose, and she does not run, and she does not let anyone touch what's hers." Rael sniffled. "But he wanted to hurt me." "He won't," she whispered fiercely. "I would burn the sky before I let that happen." Elara pointed at Roderick. "This man is a threat to this flight." Roderick scoffed. "Threat? I didn't." Passengers chimed in. "He was kicking the kid's seat. He's been yelling since boarding. He used racist slurs. He stood up during turbulence. We have it on camera." The captain stepped out fully now. "Sir," he said, voice powerful, "return to your seat, or we will turn this plane around." Roderick pointed at Elara wildly. "She's lying. She set me up." "She's..." "Sir," the captain repeated. "Seed. Now." Roderick's eyes flicked around. He realized he was the villain of a story he thought he controlled. He slowly backed down, muttering curses, and sat. But it wasn't over. All flight long, his eyes simmered with hate, and Elara felt it. But she had a plan, because men like Roderick never understand the most dangerous truth. There is nothing more powerful than a mother protecting her child. The plane leveled off above the clouds, the engines steady and unbothered. But inside the cabin, the tension sat thick enough to choke on. Even the air felt different, tight, aware, charged. The kind of atmosphere where everyone pretends to relax, but their eyes keep drifting toward danger, and danger sat directly behind a 10-year-old boy. Rael tried to focus on the cartoon playing on his screen, but he kept glancing over his shoulder, terrified that the next kick might come without warning. His small fingers fidgeted with the zipper of his hoodie. The animation's bright colors flickered across his face, but his expression stayed clouded, heavy. The innocence he had walked onto the plane with felt chipped away. Elara saw all of it. A mother doesn't need words. She reads fear in the tiny movements, the way Rael's shoulders curled forward, the stiff way he breathed, the way he kept pulling one sleeve down over his palm as if hiding. She leaned toward him. "You okay, baby?" He nodded too fast. His voice cracked. "Mom, what did I do wrong?" Elara froze. There it was, the question that stabbed deeper than any insult Roderick could throw. She cupped his cheek gently, guiding his face toward her. "Look at me." His eyes lifted. "You didn't do anything wrong, not a single thing. But he keeps looking at me like..." Rael couldn't finish. Tears glossed over his eyes, but he blinked them back with the desperate pride kids carry when they feel they have to be strong. Elara's chest tightened. "Rael Kingsford, hear me clearly," she whispered, her tone firm but warm. "People like him don't hate you because of who you are. They hate because of who they are. Empty, angry, small." Rael swallowed. "But he's big." Elara smiled softly. "Small isn't about size." A little of the tension melted from his shoulders, but only a little. Behind them, Roderick shifted loudly in his seat, clearing his throat like he wanted attention. He muttered things under his breath, disjointed words about kids these days, and no discipline, and acting entitled. Elara heard every syllable. She kept her eyes forward, hands folded neatly in her lap, because calm was the first stage of her power. She didn't need to explode. She needed to watch, document, prepare people, expected billionaires to flaunt their status, to wave money like shields. Elara had built her empire differently, quietly, strategically, letting opponents underestimate her until the exact moment she crushed them. And for the first time in years, she felt that side of herself rising to the surface. A flight attendant approached, hesitant, younger woman, brunette, anxious eyes. "Ma'am," she whispered, leaning close so others wouldn't hear, "I'm really sorry about what happened. We're keeping a close eye on him. If he does anything again, anything at all, we'll restrain him." Elara nodded, but didn't smile. "Thank you. Safety is your priority, so treat my son's safety as such." The attendant swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am." She walked away, glancing nervously at Roderick, who met her gaze with a smirk that made her quicken her steps. Rael whispered, "Mom, are they scared of him?" Elara took a deep breath. "No, honey. They're scared of doing the wrong thing. But they saw what he did." "They did," she agreed. "And now, they're deciding what kind of people they want to be." Rael frowned, confused, but he stayed quiet. He always listened. He just didn't always understand yet. Half an hour passed. The cabin dimmed slightly as window shades lowered for passengers resting. Soft yellow reading lights dotted the aisle like small lanterns. The hum of quiet conversation, the clink of ice in glasses, the shuffle of blankets, it all returned. Peace pretended to settle. Elara opened her tablet again, reviewing a contract. She tried to lose herself in the language of business. Numbers and clauses always calmed her. Not at her. "At Rael, baby. Why does he hate me?" Rael sobbed. Elara swallowed the ache in her throat. "He hates himself, and he wants the world to mirror that hate." She wiped his tears with gentle hands. "But listener, mother does not lose, and she does not run, and she does not let anyone touch what's hers." Rael sniffed. "But he wanted to hurt me." "He won't," she whispered fiercely. "I would burn the sky before I let that happen." He hugged her tightly, burying his face into her shoulder. Elara closed her eyes. Protecting him was instinct. Avenging him would come next, and she was already planning it. The plane continued. .com returned slowly. Passengers resumed talking. The baby stopped crying. Drinks were served. But the cabin never truly relaxed. Not with Roderick, glaring daggers at the back of Rael's head. Not with Rael curling closer to his mother every few minutes. Not with Elara planning 10 steps ahead, because she knew one truth. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't normal, and this wasn't the end. She could feel something deeper behind Roderick's rage, something he had hinted at, something dark. The final straw came an hour later. As the cabin lights dimmed again for rest, Elara glanced back. Roderick was staring at them, not with anger, not with annoyance, with intent. His lips moved silently, forming words she couldn't hear but could read clearly. "You're dead." Elara didn't react, but inside, her decision crystallized. This wasn't going to be handled on the plane. This was going to be handled when they landed, and when she was done. Roderick would regret ever boarding Flight 739. The cabin of Flight 782 felt colder after the confrontation, as if the air conditioning had been silently turned up. In reality, nothing had changed except the atmosphere. Everyone was watching Roderick now. Evan. Those who pretended to return to their movies kept one ear open, waiting for something else to explode. Elara sat with Rael still tucked against her side. His face was blotchy from crying, but he wiped his cheeks with his sleeve, trying hard to be brave. He didn't like crying in front of strangers, and even though he was only 10, he carried a pride older than he was. She kissed the top of his head. "You did nothing wrong," she whispered. "I know. But why does he hate me?" Elara's breath tightened. "Because some adults grow up before they learn to be human. But you'll always be better than people like him." Behind them, Roderick muttered something under his breath. A low, ugly noise, half grunt. Elara ignored him. She could have responded, but she didn't need to. The cameras were recording. The witnesses were alert, and the captain was already preparing to land early. Across the aisle, an older woman leaned over, whispering to her husband. They weren't subtle. "I told you these people always make a scene," she said, pretending her voice was too low to hear. Her husband frowned. "Stop that. You saw the whole thing. That man started it." The woman sniffed, unconvinced. Rael heard it. His hands tightened on his toy spaceship. But this time, he didn't sink into the seat. He didn't cry. He looked at his mother, as if asking permission for something. Elara nodded once. "You can answer rude people," she said softly, "as long as you stay respectful." Rael turned toward the couple. "It wasn't a scene," he said gently. "I was just sitting. He grabbed me." The woman blinked, surprised at being called out by a child. Rael continued. "If you think it's okay for grown-ups to hurt kids, then maybe the problem isn't us." The husband looked ashamed. The woman looked away. Elara smiled proudly at her son. Further down the cabin, Roderick's breathing grew louder. He was pacing again, shuffling in the narrow aisle, frustrated but trying to look innocent. He kept glancing back at the emergency exit door, the one that had gotten him in deep trouble when he reached for it before. Elara noticed. She pressed the call button. The lead flight attendant, a tall man named Samuel, hurried over. "Yes, ma'am," Elara whispered. "He keeps eyeing the exit. He's unstable. Keep an eye on him." Samuel nodded, jaw tight. "We are already preparing to divert. Captain Hayes is on it." Roderick saw them, whispering. He sneered. "Oh, big surprise. Now, I'm being watched, because some billionaire princess snapped her fingers." Elara didn't even turn to him. "Because you're dangerous," she replied evenly. That hit him hard. He stepped closer, his face blotchy and red. "You think you can ruin my life," he hissed. "People like you." Samuel stepped between them in an instant. "Sir, sit down now." Roderick shoved his shoulder, not hard enough to knock him over, but hard enough to be considered assault. Gasps echoed through the cabin. Samuel didn't touch him back. He simply repeated, "Sit down." In the front row, a businessman lifted his phone, recording again. A teenage girl across the aisle was already streaming to her followers, whispering, "That dude's going to jail, for sure. This is wild." Roderick looked around, finally realizing the scene he'd created. The witnesses, the phones, the crew, the angry stares. The passengers who had once ignored him were now united against him. But instead of surrendering, he doubled down. "You're all sheep," he barked. "I didn't do anything. That brat bumped into me. These people are making everything about race." "No," Elara said calmly. "You did that." Glared at her with pure hatred. Then, as if taking one last gamble, he marched toward the galley where the second exit door was. "Passenger," shouts erupted. Rael grabbed his mother's hand. A steward tried to intercept, but Roderick pushed past the cart and gripped the handle, or tried to. The door wouldn't budge. The safety lock was sealed, as all mid-air doors were, but that didn't matter. Everyone had seen what he intended to do. Samuel tackled him not violently, but with enough force to drag him back from the door. Another attendant stepped in. A third passenger, an off-duty security officer, offered assistance. Roderick was restrained. His wrists were zip-tied. His furious shouts muffled behind Samuel's calm command voice. Rael exhaled shakily. "Mom," he tried to open the door again. "I know," she whispered. "It's almost over." But it wasn't over. Not yet. 10 minutes later, the plane began its descent not to its original destination, but to an emergency landing hub where security personnel waited. The captain's announcement was crisp. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to a passenger incident, we will be landing shortly. Please remain seated." Passengers murmured anxiously. Some looked relieved, some were still shaken. Elara sat perfectly still, her expression unreadable. Roderick, still restrained, glared at her, like she had destroyed his entire world. "You'll regret this," he said, through clenched teeth. Elara finally looked him in the eye. "No," she said. "I don't regret protecting my son." Rael leaned into her again, the danger finally passing. But then a thought hit him. "Mom, yes. Is he going to jail?" Elara wrapped her arm around his shoulders. Yes, and she wasn't wrong. But part 3 wasn't about justice yet. It was about the moment before the storm fully broke. The moment when every passenger watched the mother and son with awe, realizing they hadn't just witnessed a racist incident, they had witnessed a billionaire, a mother, and a 10-year-old boy stand stronger than a grown man. Filled with hate, Rael stared out the window as the ground approached. Lights of the airport, blinking like distant signals of safety. For the first time since the bullying started, he felt peace. The wheels of Flight 782 hit the runway with a hard jolt. The kind that made even seasoned travelers grip the armrests. The cabin lights flickered brighter as the engines roared down into a controlled slowdown. The tension inside the plane didn't fade it. Sharpened, everyone knew this landing wasn't normal. Rael peeked out from the window as they rolled toward a remote gate instead of the main terminal. "Why are we here?" he whispered. Elara stroked his back gently. "They're keeping us away from the other passengers. Safety first." Safety word held a different meaning now. Roderick sat 3 rows back, zip-tied, breathing like a man who had just run a marathon in winter air. His face was blotchy, hair plastered to sweat on his forehead. The flight attendants had moved everyone away from him. Even the bravest passengers kept distance, treating him like a feral animal that had finally been cornered. The plane stopped. Silence. Then the door opened. Bright white floodlights blasted through the cabin entrance as airport security officers boarded 6 of them. Behind them stood 2 federal air marshals, their badges glinting. Every passenger seemed frozen in awe. The lead officer stepped inside. "Where is the detained individual?" Samuel pointed toward Roderick. "Row 5. He attempted to access the emergency exit mid-flight and assaulted crew and passengers," Roderick screamed before anyone touched him. "This is a setup. She's rich. She's lying. They're all lying." But passengers immediately spoke up. "I saw everything. He attacked a child. Check my recording." He grabbed the kid's arm. He tried to yank him. He went for the door. "I swear it." The officers didn't wait. They lifted him from the seat like he weighed nothing. Roderick kicked against the floor. "You can't arrest me. That brat bumped into me," She's faking it. You don't know who I am. The lead marshal answered calmly. We definitely don't know who you are, but we know exactly what you did. As they dragged him away, Roderick twisted his neck to glare at Elara. You ruined my life. She met his stare without blinking. No, she said softly. You did that to yourself. Rael watched him disappear down the aisle, his voice fading into the distance. The cabin erupted, in applause not loud, not rowdy, but the kind filled with relief, solidarity, gratitude. For Rael, it was like hearing the world agree that he mattered. A security officer approached Elara. Ma'am, once the passengers disembark, we'll need your statement. Your sons too. Elara nodded. Of course. Passengers began lining up to leave the plane. Many stopped by Rael's seat. A young woman whispered, You were really brave, sweetheart. A businessman said, If that was my kid, I'd want someone like your mom on board. The teenage girl who had recorded everything winked at him. You're going viral in like 10 minutes. Rael blushed, trying to smile. Elara squeezed his hand. See, people do care. They were escorted into a private terminal room, quiet, clean, and secured. Officers offered Rael water and snacks. He sat close to his mother, sipping apple juice nervously. A detective entered. Ms. Elara Hale. Elara stood. Yes. Rael stayed seated, but his eyes followed her anxiously. The detective explained. We've reviewed the passengers' recordings. The flight crew's testimony matches. The man Roderick Van S. being charged with attempted interference with a flight crew, reckless endangerment, attempted opening of an aircraft door, and hate-motivated harassment. Rael blinked. That's a lot. The detective knelt to meet his eye level. You're safe now. And what he did was wrong. You were very brave to speak up. Rael nodded shyly. The detective added, We'll handle everything from here on. You too can leave whenever you're ready. The airline is arranging a private jet to complete your travel. Rael's head snapped up. A private jet, Elara smirked. Their apology, when they finally stepped outside, cameras had already gathered at the fence outside the private terminal. News reporters who somehow caught wind of the incident, but security ushered them into a sleek black SUV before anyone could push too close. Rael leaned back into the seat, shoulders finally relaxing. Mom, yes, am I in trouble? Like because I bumped into him earlier. Elara turned to him fully, taking his small face in her hands. No, baby, you didn't do anything wrong. Some people think hate gives them permission to hurt others, but we don't run from people like that. He nodded, comforted. Then he whispered something that made her heart tighten. I'm glad you were there. She kissed his forehead. I always will be. Later that night, while Rael slept in the back seat on the ride to the hotel, Elara received a message from an investigator. Roderick requesting bail. Denied a wheel face federal. Charges will be evaluated for additional offenses. She closed her phone. Justice wasn't always swift. But today, for her son, it had been undeniable. Hours after landing, clips from the flight exploded across the internet. Millions watched Rael get grabbed, watched Elara step in, watched Roderick raging, watched the dramatic take. Comments flooded in. That mom is a legend. Protect that kid at all costs. Roderick really thought he could mess with a billionaire's child on camera. This woman deserves an award for calmness under pressure. Elara wasn't posting anything. She wasn't celebrating. She was watching Rael sleep peacefully on her lap. That was all the victory she needed. The story wasn't about wealth, wasn't about power. It was about a mother, a child, and the truth that no bully, not even a grown man on a plane, could silence them.